Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but as always, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, don't hit that fast forward button. These are all companies that I used as an athletic director. I highly recommend that you check them out. So take the next 3 minutes, listen to our sponsorship messages, then listen to our interview, and then go visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Huddle for their support. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches just loved the platform and all the tools they provided. Our kids loved it for the videos, our parents loved it for the streaming, and there's so much more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. You can schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their scoreboards in action. Probably the best purchase I ever made as an AD was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com for more information. We'd like to thank Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day. Things like scheduling, communication, rosters. How about athlete eligibility and clearance? Who doesn't do that every day? Home Campus does all of this and more, does it better, and it does it faster. Go to homecampus.com to get started. That's it, homecampus.com. We'd also like to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the events, or your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. They're also a great way to share your school's unique history and brag about your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check them out today. We'd like to say thank you to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers you more. We'd like to thank Gipper for their support. You know, your student athletes and a lot of their parents are on social media. And if you're not posting content to celebrate their accomplishments and, brag about your program, you're really missing out. Go to Gipper.com. They're going to show you how to create world-class content in seconds, and it's so easy, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com. Mention the podcast. That's Gipper.com. We also want to thank Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks on a fundraiser and then got very little return on investment? Go to snapraise.com. Hands down, the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with tremendous success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it because it works. Go to snapraise.com. Find out all the things that they can do for you with a fundraising program. That's snapraise.com. We want to say thanks to the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. This affordable 20-month, totally online program allows you to earn your master's while also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses. It's going to also create a nationwide network for you to have access to in athletic administration to build your own network. To get started, all you have to do is go to ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. And we'd like to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. You know, athletic directors already get feedback, but typically it's from a very small group that just wants to complain. Athletic Surveys will connect you to that group, but they're also going to connect you to the 98% of your stakeholders that support your program. And that information is incredibly valuable, especially when you're talking to a frustrated parent or maybe your principal or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to Ohio today, and we're going to be visiting with Brett Purcell. Brett is a certified athletic administrator. He's the director of athletics for Kenton City Schools. That's in Kenton, Ohio. We were connected through a mutual friend, Aaron Wright, from the Ohio University Online Masters Program. We'll talk about that later. But Brett Purcell, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a busy time, even though it's summer. For our listeners, we're recording this on June 26th, so it's going to be very timely when you're listening to it. Uh, Brett, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up. Maybe take us up through your own college days, and then we'll take a break. But what's the Brett Purcell origin story?
Yeah, so I'm actually a native of Kenton. I went to high school here in Kenton and lived here almost all my life. I had a little time away during college and then my first few jobs outside of college. But grew up playing sports, golfed and played baseball in high school. But kind of interestingly, I was much more involved on the music side. I was in the marching band and was in band and did all the musicals, show choir, all those things. So, I had a pretty well-rounded high school experience from both athletics and on the musical arts side, which I think has helped me, relate to a lot of different kids, in this career, because I know what both sides of those look like. So, started out wanted to be a social studies teacher, and started at Ohio State actually, and then transferred down to Ohio University, and discovered sports management. Didn't even know that it was a thing until I got down there and decided to switch my major to sports management and went that direction.
Yeah, I want to hear more about the marching band experience. Now, that was something, I mean, growing up at my school, we didn't even have that. We had band and everything, but I was not a musical guy at all. I've been
Yeah.
the athletic director at a couple of schools that had very, let's say, very successful marching bands, and I always
Mhm.
admired the directors. I mean, they ran that program like, Vince Lombardi. Um, Here's my question for you. The performance end of it, marching and the various formations. I mean, how do you keep track of all those steps? I mean, this seems to me far more complex than any, football play or basketball play. How do you guys do that?
Yeah, well, I could definitely read a marching band chart better than I could a football playbook. I mean, I can tell you that right now. And that's probably odd coming from the athletic director, but that's the truth. It's a lot of repetition, it's a lot of practice, but it's really those charts, the movement charts that you get, are you're only looking at where you go. It's not necessarily worrying about where the other members or the other sections are going. It's what are your steps, and it's usually broken out, um, like measure to measure from in the music, and you have 12 steps to get from point A to point B over this course of the section of the song, and that's what you do, and you're kind of watching the people beside you, and most of the time you're all moving together, and um, but once again, it's like anything in sports or anything, it's a lot of repetition, a lot of practice, a lot of repetition, and getting it down.
I'm sure this never happened to you while you were performing, but have you ever heard of, like in football, there's always a busted play. Have you ever heard of a busted play that you can share from the marching band perspective?
I'm sure they happen. It isn't necessarily anything that I can think of off the top of my head. But the thing is that most of the time the crowd doesn't know. They don't know what the next move is. They don't know. It's not like a busted play in football where the DB runs the wrong coverage and so you've got a wide open guy and everybody understands, hey, that was a busted play. The band show, they don't know what it's supposed to look like. So, whatever it ends up looking like, as long as maybe you don't fall down or drop your instrument or something, they'll just think it's part of the show.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, let's get back to the podcast stuff. You mentioned golf and baseball along with
Yeah.
marching band. Um, can you think back to a moment in high school where at the time it really didn't seem like much, but now looking back, with experience and wisdom and perspective, you can point to that moment and say, hey, that was significant for me. Anything come to mind?
Um, no, I mean, I wouldn't really say from high school. I think that that occurred more from, my time at Ohio. When I got into sports management, I once, like I said earlier, I didn't even know that that was an option, as a major. And then come to find out, I end up at the university that was the first to offer, a graduate degree in any sort of sports field, and so the notoriety and the reputation that Ohio had in the sports business world was second to none. And I kind of felt like I lucked into that to an extent. I didn't go there for that purpose, but ended up getting involved with that. And so, through the coursework and my professors and getting experience in the athletic department a little bit at OU, working in the some of the educational services, on the athletic side. Uh, that's when it kind of started to hit me like, yeah, you know what? That's I want to work in sports. Like I didn't come out of there thinking I was going to be an AD. I mean, that wasn't the goal coming out. I actually went the professional sports route and thought I was going to work, on the business side in professional sports, and started my career in ticket sales for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Then I went down to work for the Tampa Bay Rays and then the Cincinnati Reds. And so I was on the business side of professional sports and thought that's where I was going to, go. So never came out of there thinking I was going to be a high school AD, but was able to combine, obviously my two interests. I went to school initially wanting to be a social studies teacher, but then, but also have always loved sports and wanted to be around sports. This combines both of those. I get to do sports in the school setting. And so it's kind of the best of both worlds there. But that was never the intent, going down there.
Yeah, we're gonna in our next segment, I want you to share about those experiences, at the pro level. Very cool stuff. I guess one more question. You mentioned that you're a graduate of the Kenton schools.
Mhm.
When you came back, it wasn't right out of college, so you had some experience under your belt, but
Yep.
any of your former teachers or coaches still there? And
Oh, absolutely.
how did they how was that reception coming back?
Yeah, so I mean, it was positive coming back. It's kind of funny that I still can't call a lot of them by their first names. So, the people that are now my colleagues, or even that I supervise from a coaching, standpoint, may have been coaches that I have, and they're still either coach or Mister or Mrs. or whatever. Where the other ones that I didn't have, I have no problem calling them their first name. So, but that gets ingrained in you as a student, and that person is always Mr. Coach or Mrs. Or Miss, and that doesn't really go away. But it's Kenton's a small community, and so you everybody knows everybody, and everybody's grown up together and that type of thing. It's one of those communities, and so it wasn't a problem coming back at all, and I was very welcomed back, and a lot of them get a kick out of telling the students, that they had me as a student, and but we're standing there, together as either administrators or teachers, and working with that next generation. But a lot of them had me here, as a student too. So it's a fun dynamic for sure.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. I can hear those students saying, to another teacher, "Hey, tell us a story about Mr. Purcell when he was a
Yep.
student." Yeah.
Well, and I think the thing is they don't realize that how old that makes me, and then how old that makes that teacher.
Right.
It's kind of a double-edged sword there for the teacher if they had me as a student and they're still having these kids as students. So
Yeah. No, very cool. Thanks for sharing that. We're going to go and take our first break, but when we come back, we're going to hear more about Brett Purcell's early career in pro sports that helped bring him to his current position at Kenton City Schools. Let's go and take that break, but we'll be back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We'd like to thank Huddle for their support of the podcast. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided that let them coach our kids up to the highest level. The student athletes loved Huddle for the videos, and our parents even loved it for the streaming. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. You can schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com for more information. That's sidelineinteractive.com. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. We're visiting today with Brett Purcell from Kenton City Schools. Brett's a certified athletic administrator. He's the director of athletics for Kenton City. Brett, you kind of took us through your undergraduate journey at Ohio. We're going to hear more about your graduate journey there, but talk about your early stops right out of college. As you said, you didn't have a plan to become an athletic director. What were some of those stops that helped influence your career?
Yeah, so during my time at undergrad at OU, they have the Mandalay Sports Sales Academy, and John Spolstra, um, who used to be the general manager, I think, of the Portland Trail Blazers. His son is Eric Spolstra, the head coach of the Miami Heat. He comes and puts on a weekend sales, what do you want to say, academy clinic type of a program, and I took part in that, and that kind of got me started going down that road of sales, and specifically tickets, season tickets, group packages, those types of things, and coming out of that experience and having that on my resume opened up a lot of doors for me. That's recognizable through the sports industry, and for those folks that are hiring those entry level positions on their sales teams. And so that got brought up in multiple interviews, with those hiring folks from those professional organizations, of seeing that on my resume. So that was a huge piece for getting that initial job with the Columbus Blue Jackets. So I joined their inside sales staff, and my job was to sell ticket packages, was to cold call people, cold call businesses, and try to sell them some sort of season ticket plan, or however that worked out. Spent a few months there, and then had the opportunity to move to Florida, which I thought I wanted to do, and um, go be a Floridian for a while, and so went and got hired at the Tampa Bay Rays. It was a lot of fun. It was the year after they went to the World Series that first time, and so obviously interest was super high in the Rays. It's an interesting community, the St. Pete, Tampa Bay area. It's a tough sell because of nobody really grew up being a Rays fan at that time. The franchise was still too new. And so, our best attended games were the Yankees and the Red Sox, because the majority of people that lived there were from the East Coast originally, or their grandparents or parents were from the Northeast, and so they grew up being generational Yankees, Red Sox fan of some other team other than the Rays. I think that's starting to change. Obviously, a bunch of kids down there have grown up with the Rays, and they've been successful. So but it was fun to be there that year after. But once again, it's was the same type of thing. It was cold calls, making 115 phone calls a day, and getting hung up on, getting told don't ever call me again, or getting, yeah, I'm interested, give me a call next week. Yeah, I'm interested, give me a call next week. Just that being drug along. Um, but after that, then I had the opportunity to I got married while my wife's from Kenton, where we grew up here together. She was a couple of years ahead of me in school, but um, we moved there together, and then wanted to get a little closer to home. So I had the opportunity to work for the Reds, and working for the Cincinnati Reds was like a dream for me. They're my favorite team of all my teams, and so being a part of that organization, and getting to go to the ballpark every day for work, was awesome. At the end of the day, it's still the same thing. It's cold calling. You get a new prospect list, and um, you're just working your way through. And at the end of the day, it's a sales job. And so in the professional sports world, it's they're looking for people to perform. They're looking for people that's going to generate revenue. If that's not you, then they'll move on. And they'll bring in the next group that to see. Sometimes you get in the right position, and you do really well, and you promote you into a different department, or you stay you stay on. um, but it wears on you after a while. It wears on you in terms of that daily task of, okay, I got to go pick up the phone 120 more times and make my calls. And so, at the end of the day, it's a sales job, but boy, it's a lot of fun going to the ballpark for work and being around the organization and doing those things. So I greatly appreciate that experience that I had, but I'm so much more happier doing what I'm doing now compared to the sales side of it. So
Now, I'm curious. You were in three different organizations, basically
yeah,
doing the same things you mentioned, the cold calling. I've heard statistics thrown back and forth about you have to make X number of calls to get a sale on average. What was your goal? What was the bar that they established for you? And did you meet that or?
yeah, yeah. So it was a little different at each place. You're still expected, that 100 to 125 to 30 phone calls a day. I mean, as you're working through your list, maybe out of that you get three or four decent conversational that you think you could maybe turn into some sort of sale. Some groups or some lists, so to say, were more lucrative than others. If you had a prospective buyer that say was a that attended multiple games, so was a single game buyer for multiple games, so it was kind of easy to turn that person into, well, hey, we've got this 10 game flex plan, or we've got a 6 game package or something like that, that was great for you because that counted into your numbers. That was a sale for you. Maybe not necessarily a high dollar, but you got them in the door of being what would be considered a season ticket holder at the lowest level, but you got them in the door, and then hopefully through the years you're able to expand and they're able to buy more, and that type of thing. um, it was pretty rare that you picked up the phone, you got somebody and you sold them a full season ticket plan like that doesn't happen real often.
Right.
But it did every once in a while, and those were days that you went home and you felt like, wow, I can do this. Or you think about a little bit of that commission check that was going to be coming and thinking, that was a good one, or that type of thing. So
Okay.
um, what's a lot of the fun is the other people that you're working with, because it's a bullpen camaraderie type of a situation. You're all mostly freshly out of college, and you're just trying to make it, in some sort of position in the professional sports world, and everybody's from somewhere else, and so it's a lot of fun that way. But you're all kind of competing against each other, and that, going in that, maybe 2 or 3 people are going to get promoted out of here, and the other 12 are going to get sent packing, and so there's that competition side where you're happy for them if they make a big sale, but you're also like, shoot, I got to pick up my game. I gotta pick it up, or else I'm not going to be here anymore. So
From now that you're an athletic director, completely different setting,
yep.
any lessons that you picked up from a marketing or promoting standpoint that you're able to apply with the Kenton City Schools program?
Yeah, so a couple things. The first thing that type of job teaches you is the ability to pick up the phone and talk to anybody. Like, you've got to be able to talk to people, and so I feel like as an athletic director, it's a lot of the same things. Is you got to be able. You're going to have conversations with parents. You're going to have conversations with kids. Like, you're going to have to just be able to have those conversations, and so it teaches you to be a little out. You have to be a little outgoing, and be able to pick up the phone and have those conversations. Or if you're at a ball game, just have a conversation with anybody. From a marketing or business side standpoint, it's ticket sales and a lot of things. They don't like discounting tickets. They don't want to discount tickets. They want to add value to the tickets. So they want to charge full price but add value. So if we're able to do some sort of promotion with a local business or something that adds value to our people coming to the game, we want to look at doing something along those lines, because it doesn't take away from the revenue that we're getting in. We're just adding value and making people feel like they're getting more for their $8 or whatever it is. But in the professional world, it's they buy a $35 ticket and they get a hat and a hot dog. Well, that costs the organization like $1.50 maybe, and instead of discounting the ticket by $5 to try to increased value, which is $5 out of the revenue. It's an opportunity. How can you add value to that ticket? So, I think there's a couple of things that, I learned through those experiences that I can use here. Is being able to have a conversation with anybody, and what are some ways we can add value to our events that drives attendance without giving tickets away or super discounts and those types of things.
Right. It's such a great point too. And the hat or the hot dog, even t-shirts, the goodwill that gets generated, at the school level, the community level, it's
Yep.
you can put a price on that, but sometimes it's a good return on investment.
Yep.
Great lesson. We're going to take another quick break, but we're coming back. Our guest today is Brett Purcell. He's a certified athletic administrator. He's the director of athletics for the Kenton City Schools in Kenton, Ohio. So let's take that break, but we'll be back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Home Campus for their support. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day. Things like scheduling, uploading scores and rosters, communicating with your stakeholders, communicating with your entire state. How about athletic eligibility and clearance? Who doesn't work on that every day? Home Campus does all of this and more, and it does it better and it does it faster. To get started, all you have to do is go to homecampus.com. That's it, homecampus.com. We also want to thank our good friends at Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the events, or showcase your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Take a look at their interactive touch screen. That's right, touch screen video consoles. It's also a great way to share your school's unique history and brag about your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check them out today. We also want to thank Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. Their team is going to show you how to set up and sell tickets online, not just for your athletic events, but things like school plays and concerts, school dances, even graduation. And here's the best part. Every school gets assigned a dedicated client success manager that's going to provide you hands-on support every step of the way. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more.
Hey, Jake, I just heard that hometown ad. I just actually met with them earlier this week and got everything set up for us for our football reserve seats and our all sports passes for this next school year. And so I've been working with them, since coming to Kenton, and it's been a great partnership.
I really appreciate you saying that. And since you brought it up, I'm going to put you on the spot. You had a lot of choices when regarding online ticketing. What appealed to you about Hometown's package?
Yeah, so I think it's just the ease of use, and the support that they give you on the back end with, your success manager and that person or the group of people there that work in that department are great to work with. And so, any little quirk or question or situation that comes up, they've been great to kind of problem solve or think through how you can do that. And through COVID really is where they showed their value. When in Ohio we had attendance restrictions, we were down to whatever. Geez, it seems so long ago. It was 15% of capacity or whatever it was what was permitted to attend, and really the only way to manage that was through digital ticketing. And because you could obviously set the maximum capacity, and the system itself would stop selling tickets at that point. And so, we use that exclusively for everything. So now, of course, we're back to accepting cash, but we run everything through the hometown box office. And so they've continued to adapt as the athletic departments have to adapt, and it's just been a great product for us.
Wow. Really appreciate you sharing. I kind of forgotten about that, limited, attendance numbers, but what a
Yep.
great point, even for your facility. If that, 506 is the maximum for your
Yep.
gym or whatever it is, you can set that. Very cool. For our listeners, our guest today is Brett Purcell. He's a certified athletic administrator, and he's the director of athletics for the Kenton City School District in Kenton, Ohio. Brett, one of the things we try to do with the podcast is this idea of sharing best practices. So, once again, I'm going to put you on the spot. What are some things that you do in your program? Maybe it's with kids or coaches or facilities. What's a couple of things that you're particularly proud of that you would call best practices?
Yeah, so it's kind of been an exciting time here in Kenton the last couple of years. It really got started when the community was super supportive in passing the levy for our new building. So our current high school was built in 1962. Our current middle school, which is seventh and eighth graders right now, it was a public works project from the 30s. So it was definitely time, here in Kenton to build a new middle and high school. We have a new elementary that opened up in 2014, and so those kids, all of our current young kids have go to this nice brand new building with all the latest features and tech and air conditioning and all those things, and then they take a way step back in time when they go to the middle school to the 30s and small hallways, small classrooms, and those types of things. So that's a quick way of saying it was time, and the community was super supportive, and so being a part of that process and getting the opportunity to design the gym and design the locker rooms and the layout of everything and how's this going to flow and what can we do here, what's this going to look like. It's that was an awesome opportunity to be a part of, and I've talked with other administrators here that like that's to an extent our legacy project because generations down the road are going to be attending that building, but we were going to be the group that got to design and put it together. And that's really exciting, but that's a lot of pressure all at the same time, because it's going to have to last, another 60 or 70 years. But you only get one shot at it. It gets built once. And so, that was a pretty interesting and exciting process. But just to have that opportunity to kind of get to design the gym that you want, and those things. Not a lot of ADs get to do that. So, was happy with that. Something else that I did last year is I completed the Bruce Brown Award of Excellence here in Ohio, very similar to the QPA process at the national level, but it's more local to Ohio. For those that maybe aren't familiar at the NIAAA, it's the Quality Program Award and Assessment. Um, so Ohio has a localized version of that, and I kind of took our athletic department through that process. It's a what ended up being a 3 to 4 month process of submitting different items of evidence to satisfy these requirements, and it's all looking at best practices. It's all ensuring that your athletic department is operating at the industry, at the highest standards of the industry. And so that was was a double check for me, in terms of being sure that yes, we are doing that, and then finding those areas that needed adjusted, or adapted to be sure we are following best practices. And that was something that was important to me, and was able to complete that and receive that award last November at the OIAAA State Conference. And so that's great to be able to hang that banner in the gym and just let our community know that we're doing things the way they're supposed to be done, and we're trying to follow best practices and doing things at the highest standard for interscholastic athletic.
As you were going through that process, that program evaluation, any surprises, well, boy, we didn't know we did this so well, or, hey, we need to make sure we address this. Anything come to mind?
Yeah, so I did it in a cohort setting, and there were maybe 20 or so other ADs that we were all in the same cohort together. And it's ran by a gentleman named Randy TV Paul, who's a great athletic director in Northeast Ohio, and he's completed the QPA at the NIAAA level, and he's really into this type of process and programming. So he's kind of guiding us through that. And so yeah, it was very interesting to see obviously how all of these other athletic departments do things. We're all sharing the information into Google folders, and everybody can see kind of what everybody else is doing. And so it was an opportunity to look at things. One of the areas that I was probably most eye opening to me maybe was from a budgeting standpoint, and looking at not necessarily the out of Title IX compliance or anything like that, but just trying to do a better job of maybe tracking those types of expenses in terms of what are you spending on male sports compared to what are you spending on female sports, and being sure that they're in line with each other. And we figured that maybe we don't track that the best, and so that's an area for growth for us. And in no way am I saying that we're unequal in terms of our spending, but just from the tracking standpoint of that. So, that was one area that we can definitely improve, and go uh, do better down the road with kind of tracking those things to be sure we're staying, in compliance, and we're doing a good job there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Brett, we're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but if one of our listeners wanted to reach out, pick your brain a little bit more about, that whole process, or just add you to their network, what's the
Yep.
best way that they can get a hold of you?
So my email is going to be the best way. My email inbox is my to do list. I tell people all the time, they'll text me, and I'll say, can you please email me this, because
I'm the same
texts
way.
get buried. But I've got the email in front of me all the time. So, my email is Purcell Brett, two L's and two T's, PURCELLBRETT at Kenton City Schools with an S on the end.org. And that's always going to be the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay. And like I said, we'll give that information out again at the end of the podcast.
Yep.
We're going to take another quick break. I know that's shocking to our regular listeners, but we've got more best practices coming up. So please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We'd like to say thank you to Gipper for all the support they provide the podcast. Go to Gipper.com. Your kids and a lot of their parents are on social media. And if you're not creating posts to acknowledge their accomplishments and celebrate all the achievements from your program, you're really missing out on a great opportunity. The Gipper team is going to have you creating world-class marketing content in seconds. And it's so easy, even I can do it. Gipper's used and trusted by over 4,000 high school and college athletic programs. It's professional graphic design made simple. Go to Gipper.com to get started. We also want to say thanks to our good friends at Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed with your results? Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with tremendous success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it because it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms, but if you're looking for a fundraiser, you found it. Go to snapraise.com. We also want to say thank you to the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. When we come back, you're going to hear about Brett's experience with the Ohio University Master's program. But my assistant athletic director got his master's through the program. Not only did he earn his master's degree from one of the leading institutions in the country, he also completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses to go towards his CAA. To find out how you can get started with the Ohio University Online Master's program, all you have to do is go to ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. Check it out today.
Hey, Jake, one thing I did fail to mention in that last segment is probably our most exciting, newest thing here at Kenton is we just hired a full-time strength and conditioning coach. It's pretty new. I mean, conceptually, at least in Northwest Ohio, there's not a lot of other schools that have one, and we're really excited about who we got. His name's Andrew Letty. He's originally from Findlay, which is about 30 minutes north of Kenton here, but he's worked the last 12 years down in Florida, actually. He was the strength and conditioning coach at St. Thomas Aquinas, and
Oh,
um, yeah, and then spent some time in some private training facilities down there, working with a lot of everything from high school all the way up to multiple professional athletes. And so, for us to be able to get him here, it was an opportunity for him to move his family back closer to home, but also just that level of experience is going to be invaluable for our student athletes in our programs. We were on the smaller end of schools in our league, and we're at the bottom socioeconomically in our league, and so we sometimes struggle to compete a little bit. We're hoping that this, and so we have to think outside the box a little bit, hoping that this is a game changer for us and someone to come in and help our kids be a little more athletic at times.
Oh, no, absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that. I still think too many, and whether you want to start with superintendents or principals or even talk about ADs, I think too many people still consider the strength and conditioning professional as a luxury item for high schools, and it's not. It should be a piece of, standard equipment.
Yeah,
I was very fortunate as an AD, and again, most of my career was at private schools, but, we had strength and conditioning coaches that, they were, CSCS, they worked with all the teams. It wasn't just a football program. It was, tailor-made to teams and to individuals. So good for you. I'm excited to hear about the impact that that coach is going to have for you. Great job. And coming from St. Thomas Aquinas, I mean, that's kind of, you know, an elite athletic program,
yes,
as elite as you can imagine, in the
yeah.
state of Florida and also as a nationwide footprint. So good for you.
Yeah, I got a text 15 minutes or so after, from my girls soccer coach on day one of their training, and he just said, "Thank you. This is awesome." And so, a lot of it, our coaches aren't professional. They're not strength and conditioning coaches. I want them to coach their sport. That's what they were put in place for and hired for. And if we can take that training pressure off of them and just let them coach, that's going to make them better coaches, and it's going to make our teams better. So yeah, to have a professional that this is what they do, it's really just another resource for our coaches, to utilize and allow them to just coach.
Oh no, absolutely. I love it. I'm right there with you. Let the coaches coach, and then as an AD, the things that we can take off of their plate
Yep.
to allow them to. What I would tell our coaches is, I want you to do the fun stuff of coaching. Let me do the stuff that's not so fun, rosters
Sure.
and eligibility and all that.
Sure.
Well, this segment, again, for our listeners, we're visiting with Brett Purcell, certified athletic administrator and the director of athletics for the Kenton City Schools in Kenton, Ohio. Brett, you already mentioned that you did your undergraduate work at Ohio University in
Yep.
your degree in sports management.
Yep.
Now, when it comes to your master's, you and a lot of people, you've got a lot of choices in this area of athletic administration. There's a lot of really good programs out there. Why did you choose the Ohio University Master's in Athletic Administration? What appealed about it to you?
Yeah, so I'm probably not going to be the best answer for that, only because I did my undergrad there. I love my experience, and it was a no-brainer for me of where I was going to go back to get my master's. I didn't intend coming out. I never really intended to go back and get my master's. It's not something that I thought I was going to do. So I'm in my this upcoming school year will be my 14th year as an athletic director. Um, and it became evident, my first couple years. I started at a real small school. I mean, we're talking 35 to 40 kids a class type of school, called Waynesfield Goshen. And so I realized there, though, that if I'm going to progress and advance in this career, I'm going to need to get a master's degree, to be able to fill this role at larger districts. Those folks are requiring masters, and rightfully so. And so when I started to look back at that process, it was kind of a no brainer for me of where I was going to go. Ohio offered, it was a 2-year program, everything was online, but the familiarity, of course, with university, and even the people that are involved in the program. The majority of the people that were involved were a lot of folks that I had as an undergrad, and our mutual acquaintance, Aaron Wright, who runs that program, was a professor of mine for multiple classes as an undergrad. So, it was a natural fit for me to choose Ohio University, for my master's work.
You mentioned some of the experiences that you had in their undergraduate program. What were some of the courses or experiences or activities that you had in the master's program that really stuck out for you and stay with you today?
Yeah, so I was in a little bit different of situation in the fact that I was already an AD. So the majority of people that, of course, are going through that program are aspiring to be an AD. They're trying to um, get the education level and the experience and the knowledge to go get an athletic director's job. So I had a little different perspective going into it. What it really did for me though was validation. It was the coursework aligned with what I was doing every day, and that was very helpful for me to know you are doing this thing the right way, and you're doing the activities, or you're doing the processes the same way that they're teaching, the next generation of athletic directors to do. And so that was helpful for me. It was also benefited that I could use a lot of the things that I had done in the job, as part of my assignments and projects. I wasn't having to come from a theoretical place. I was, well, yeah, we did that 2 months ago. We ran a tournament, and this is how we set things up. And so then it aligned with what we were doing in the coursework. But for those that maybe are considering that, I can tell you from personal experience, obviously the things that are learned there are very applicable, because as I went through the program, yeah, those are what we were doing, that on a day-to-day basis, actually running an athletic department. So,
One of the things that we say, talking about the Ohio program, and again, I didn't graduate from it, but I've got a pretty darn close connection. My assistant AD is a grad and just raved about the experience. We talked about it quite a lot. Was the connections and building your network.
mhm.
Can you talk to that piece and how that's been important for you?
Yeah, so a lot of the people that they bring in terms of facilitating courses or teaching the courses, are current ADs or former ADs, and so you're learning from real world people that are in the positions, right now, which is super helpful. It's not necessarily someone that, well, I was an AD 20 years ago. A lot of things have changed in education-based athletics over, even post-COVID. A lot of things have changed, and so having that real time learning opportunities from people that are currently doing it, was big. I also think, the cohort setup in terms of you're with the same group for over the course of the 2 years, and so you're making connections with those people, and you're building that network of people from all across the country that will go on and hopefully become an athletic director, but you're still able to use each other, as resources. I still we shoot text back and forth with, some of the a group from that cohort, and we share what everybody's doing, and what they're currently doing professionally, and if they're in an AD position or they got an AD position, we celebrate that together, and it's just those connections you make, from your time there in that program, and getting to be with the same people for a 2 year period. You get to know them, and then the opportunity to everybody actually meet in person when they come on campus, in June for that. At least ours was in June. I know everybody might be a little different, but um, for that 3 or 4 days of work there on campus in Athens, but you're getting to meet these people that you've only ever talked to virtually, and so you're getting to meet them in person, and that's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, no, my assistant AD, just he came back from that, just raved about the experience, how cool it was.
Sure.
Thanks so much for sharing about Ohio University and about your program. I wish we had some more time, but we're not done yet. We always wrap up with the athletic director toolbox segment. Now, you just mentioned you've been an AD for a long time, you've got experiences at the professional level, but we're going to take our final break and hear from Athletic Surveys, who sponsored this segment. When we come back, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 things in the toolbox. So let's go ahead and take that break. We're going to hear from Athletic Surveys. And when we come back, we're going to find out what Brett Purcell is going to put in his new athletic director toolbox. We want to thank Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the Athletic Director Toolbox segment of the podcast. Athletic directors already get feedback, but typically it's from a very small group that just wants to complain. Athletic surveys will connect you to that group, but they're also going to connect you to the 98% of your stakeholders that support your program. And that data is incredibly valuable, especially when you're meeting with a frustrated parent or maybe your principal or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today with Brett Purcell from Kenton City. That's Kenton City, Ohio. Long list of accomplishments, a tremendous experience as an athletic administrator. But right now, I'm going to challenge him to send out a brand new athletic director on their first job, but I'm only going to let him put 3 things in the toolbox. So, Brett, what 3 items are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
Absolutely. So I would say the first one is build that network. Get involved with the professional organization. So when I first got hired at Waynesfield, I obviously was coming from professional sports. I had no idea, what I was going to be doing as an athletic director. And the person that served as the AD before me actually um, transitioned into the guidance counselor position. And so but he was still right down the hall. He took me to my first Northwest OI AAA meeting, and of the Ohio Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association. He took me to my first meeting, and I've been going back ever since. And since then, I've progressed, and I serve on the OI AAA state board, and I'm the conference chair for the OI AAA conference. Making that network and getting involved with other ADs, has been super valuable for me as a professional, but gives you that network of people to pick up the phone and call and talk to, and ask questions. And when you're involved at that level and you get outside of just either the school surrounding you, there's so many other perspectives and there's so many other ways that people do things that you get that knowledge and you get that opportunity to learn and grow. So kind of following with that, I would say, attend your state conferences if you can, figure out whatever way. And then the last 2 years, I've actually started to, be able to go to the national conference and expand that way. So those things have always been very important to me, and I find a lot of value. And we always talk about from the state level, like if we can just get them to the conference, if we can get them to Columbus in November to the OI AAA conference, I think the likelihood that they remain in the position significantly increases because they're there with people that have had like experiences, like challenges, have gone through the same highs and lows, and it's an opportunity to just either celebrate together, commiserate together, complain a little bit together, blow off some steam, but it sends you back to your school realizing that you're not alone. You're not completely on an island like you sometimes feel as an athletic director. And there are other people out there to support you. So I would say that'd be my number one is get involved with your professional organization and build that network. Um, Second piece, I'd say, from a school perspective, hire good people. Hire good people as coaches. You're not always going to find the coach that's the greatest at X's and O's, but is he a good person and can he build relationships with kids? If I can get somebody that I know is a good person, going to do things the right way and build great relationships and give the kids a great experience, I'm okay with giving up a little bit of X's and O's knowledge and those things because that stuff can come. You can learn that. You can't learn how to necessarily be a good person. So, when you're looking at candidates, do your research and talk to people, but hire good people and then put them in a position to, and you as the AD, it's your job to support them, support and give them the tools that they need to be successful. But if you got a good person in place, most of the time the rest of the stuff's going to fall into place. Um, I know you said 3. I'm gonna say 4. The third one would be sure you're working with your maintenance and your custodian folks. You will need them on a daily basis in terms of operating events. Treat them well and they'll do anything for you, and that's huge. So be sure to develop a relationship with your maintenance staff and your custodial staff, because that'll pay off for you, dividends, on a daily basis. And then my last thing that I've always tried to instill on anybody, any new AD or anybody I talk to, is consistency. So I go with my three C's of consistency creates credibility. And I find that in working with students and parents the most. If you can be consistent with how you operate and the decisions you make, it it creates that credibility for you as an athletic director. As an AD, you're one of the most visible, staff members in a school district. They see you more than they see the community sees you more than they see the teachers or even sometimes the principal. I'm the one at all the sporting events where all the community is, and so you need to have that credibility, for when a tough decision has to be made. When you have to make a difficult decision and it's going to upset somebody or ruffle some feathers one way or the other, if you've been consistent with how you've handled those situations, you're not going to get a lot of pushback because people are going to be understanding. That's how we always do that, or that's how they did the same type of thing for this family over here. They're not getting any sort of preferential treatment. It's not, doesn't matter who you are. If you can be consistent, you're going to create credibility in the position, and that's going to be huge for you down the road.
Well, you probably saw me writing all those down. I love them all. We'd already talked about the importance of networking, hiring good people, and then supporting them. But you're absolutely right. Being consistent, being true to your word. I guess that's another way to say, having integrity in the things
Sure.
that you do. Great, great suggestions. Brett, thanks again for sharing. One more time, if one of our listeners wants to reach out, connect
Yep.
with you, what's the
Yep.
best way that they can do that?
Yeah, so shoot me an email, purcellbrett@kentoncityschools.org. More than happy to share anything or have a conversation, answer questions. Like I said, yeah, coming up, it's hard to believe coming up on year 14 of doing this. And most of us, I think, talk, if you can get through those first 3 to 4 years, then you pretty much feel like, okay, you're where you're supposed to be. I don't have any aspirations of doing anything other than this. This is what I love, and it's what I want to do for the rest of my career. I see well, I mean, I wasn't a teacher, and so I can't go be a principal, or I can't really, do a whole lot else in the school district, from that standpoint. But I see what those folks do, and it's a tough, tough job. This is a tough job, but man, we get to go to sporting events a lot, and that's great. We get to watch and interact with our students while they're doing something they love. And so that's an awesome place to be and an awesome, thing to do for a career. So wouldn't want to do anything else.
Oh, absolutely. It is a tough job, but the rewards are so many. And you talked about it, spending time with kids. Great stuff. Brett, once again, thanks for all you do. Thanks for sharing your wisdom on the podcast. And we're going to have to get you back on down the road, see how that strength coach impacts the program.
Absolutely. Hopefully, maybe 10 years from now, I've just got trophies lined up behind me or something like that from no. But yeah, no, it's an exciting time here in Kenton, and I hope our kids, will see the fruit of their labors. Let's say that the fruit of their labors of working with what we're trying to do for them. So
Oh, I'm sure they will. For our listeners, we want to say thanks to you and just remind you that we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day, sharing stories and best practices. So we hope you come back for another edition of the Educational AD Podcast. Have a great day.